Welcome to the blind zone. What is a blind zone, you say? It's something that happens all of a sudden, or it's something you refuse to see that was right in front of your face. And today's guest is a special, special friend because it's my best friend, Janine. It's her mom. And I've known Dolores since I was starting the fourth grade. So that's, well, I won't tell you how long that's been, but it's been a long time. So, Dolores, we're going to cover a lot of ground today. And so, welcome and just give a quick hello, and then I'll start with our questions.
Right? You wanted me to start out with where I was born and that type of thing?
That'd be fine. I mean, you can say hello or whatever you want, but yeah, that's fine. So, give us and one of the reasons why you're here today, because I find your story very fascinating, is because you were born at a time. Well, you'll get to the point, how long you've been alive and all. But what I want to do is I have four questions, and so you're going to start with where you were born in the rural area, and then you're going to fast forward at the end of this to show us how much things have changed in the 90 years you've been around. So we're going to start with your very beginning, and so if you could start with that, please, that'd be great.
Okay. I was born in 1933 on a cold January morning, and I'm the youngest of five siblings, born to my parents on Negaunee in Southfield, Michigan. And I was born at home because my mother, when she had my sister Fran, the first one, had her in a hospital. But she didn't feel she received enough individual attention. So she decided she'd have the rest of the kids at home that she had. And she had five of us, and I'm the youngest. And she had a doctor come to the house and attend her while she had the baby. So that was in 1933. When I was 3 years old, we moved to a house on Grand River, which was the main thoroughfare between Lansing and Detroit, on the corner of Indian Avenue. And it was a big four-bedroom home, cinder block home, and we rented it from some people, the Smith family that lived several blocks down the street. They had a great big house. And anyway, there were three bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom, and a bedroom, living room, dining room, and kitchen downstairs, and a basement. And it did have cement floors, and the windows were about low windows, not big windows, and they were covered over with isinglass because at one time that house had been a blind pig where they sold illegal alcohol. And but anyway, my daddy was an insurance salesman, and he liked gardening. And his childhood, growing up in Florida, he was a what the yeah, sharecropper, and so he loved gardening. So we had several gardens, several fields around the house, our house, that he planted gardens in. So we never went without food. We always had plenty because my mom canned everything. In the summertime, Daddy would bring home a bushel of dead ripe peaches, and my mother would have to can them immediately, get them ready to can. And
Mm-hmm.
I can remember her, she was a big woman, and she perspired a lot, and she wore a lot of clothes because back then, you would have wore the slip and the bra and then the little shirt over that, and then the dress and the apron and the corset and all that stuff. So, and we didn't have air conditioning, so it was really hot when my mother would be canning. And excuse me, um, what else? Oh yeah, my daddy. In addition, in the garden, we didn't have a refrigerator electric. It was an ice box, and my daddy, and with the milk too, would go to a neighbor not close by, and buy these big cylinder cans of milk, and that's what we had until we got the electric refrigerator and the milkman that came to the house. and they would leave the milk in quart bottles on the doorstep. And in the wintertime, if you didn't catch it right away, the milk would rise to the top of the can and push up this little cardboard lid that they had on top and freeze. And my mother would cut that off and use that for her coffee and desserts that we had. So that was a treat when we had that. And then we had a iceman that delivered ice to the house. And as a kid in the summertime, we always liked to run out to his truck and coax him into getting us a piece of ice that we could suck on the rest of the day. And we also had a bakery man that came to the house, and my mother, of course, loved coffee cakes and all that good stuff. Um, excuse me. What else can I tell you about my childhood? Oh, I was 3 years old when we moved into that house on Grand River, and we didn't have inside plumbing. We had a well outside. We had a kitchen sink with a hand pump inside, and a chemical toilet that was upstairs in the bathroom, and then and an outhouse. So most of the time we used the outhouse because of the inconvenience of the carrying that chemical toilet in and out to empty in the outhouse. And we
Mm-hmm.
had a washing machine, ringer type thing. It was electric. Uh, and I remember one time I got my arm caught in it when I was helping my sister do the laundry. And fortunately, I didn't get hurt because she was quick thinking enough to pull my arm out. But I remember seeing that arm going in that ringer. That was not pleasant.
Wow. See, and one of the reasons I want you to tell that story, because at the end, we're going to go through a couple other phases of your life. And then at the end, I want you to really, because now obviously I wasn't raised like that at all. I do remember the milkman coming and dropping off. We had a milk chute, and he dropped, the quart bottles off, and I don't know when that ended, but I remember the seal test truck man pulling up, and so that was something I remembered. But obviously, I was born well after you, and so when we were talking about this, so then you went off and you got married, had children. And so I asked you to think of at least two things that you would consider were your most biggest accomplishments, that you would look to and say that you were pleased with how they came out. So what would those two be?
Well, Denise, I don't feel that I've accomplished anything on my own. Um, I believe that God has my life planned. Excuse me. And I'm just a actress carrying out whatever He has planned in my life. And I'm grateful for that. He gave me the responsibility of raising two children. What a blessing they've been. I'm proud of their accomplishments. They've grown to be fine, intelligent, beautiful, uh, law-abiding citizens, and I am proud of them. But I don't take credit for any of that. It's all uh, God doing it through me. Excuse me. I get emotional when I talk about that, but that's okay.
No, because that's how I feel too. When people say, "What have you accomplished?" It's like, "Oh, not a whole lot, but I can show you the things that God has done through me." So, with that in mind, now, can you say some things that that you saw the hand of God work through your life?
Oh, absolutely. I can see His hand, and that's an advantage of living to be as old as I am, because you can look back and you can see. I can, excuse me, I can anyway. I can see where He has provided for me all through my life. Um, when Kenny, my brother Kenny, was starting out, he sold life insurance for Prudential Life Insurance Company, and of course we wanted to help him, so we bought mortgage life insurance to cover our mortgage, and So I can see because our mortgage was paid. So that was God looking out for me then. And after that, I mean, He's provided me with another husband, um, Bill, that was a never had any. Well, he had a stillborn child. He had been married before, he had a stillborn, but never had children of his own. So he was grandparent to my grandkids, and he was a wonderful grandfather for them. And that was good because they all loved Bill really a lot and looked up to him. And now in my later years, he's provided another friend that I could spend the last years of my life with as a companion. And in fact, right now he lives right next door to me. um, but I can see that he's just taking care of me every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, obviously I know a lot of that story because again, I'm best friends with your daughter Janine. So now I also know that you like to travel a lot and you've done quite a bit of extensive traveling because I know you've traveled some with Janine as well. So out of all your travels, what has been the one place that you've really thought a lot about or most enjoyed
Well,
visiting?
because I could travel with my kids, I really enjoyed that. My love of traveling, I think, started out years ago when I was about 12 or 13 years old. My sister and her husband and daughter, who was 6 years younger than me, traveled out west, and we went several times out there, and we continued that after I got married. We took my kids out there as well. So that started it. But I really, after the kids were born, most of our time was spent up in Hollow Lake. But we did travel a couple of times out west with them. But that was one of our main things was camping at Hollow Lake, and we really enjoyed that. But then after Gordon died, uh, I let's see, I was single for 5.5 years before I married Bill. In fact, I was married to Bill longer than Gordon. Um, and we traveled. We got married in December, so he wanted to take me to Scotland, but he said it was too cold in December, so we took a week trip to Acapulco, Mexico. And
Mm-hmm.
but then our real honeymoon was the next summer when we went to Scotland, and we went to Paris and London at that time as well. And we made one or two other trips to Scotland in our married life. But on cruises, his sister would come over, and we went on a couple cruises to the Bahamas. And I took Jennifer's and Daniel there when they were little teenagers, just starting out, and they really enjoyed that. I was happy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I went to Alaska. Daniel and Dan and Joe and Janine and David and I went to and my friend Don went with us as well, and that was really really fun. And I went zip lining, which was the most exciting thing I think I've ever done in my life. And I did it all alone because yeah, it was what 80. Yeah, it was 80 years old I think when I did that.
Well, because what I find really interesting is that because the reason I bring up the travel is because how you started and because you said you were born in the depression and so there wasn't a lot of extras and things like that, but you never went without anything. You trusted, God to provide for you, and then you went to see some of the magnificent places that that He put on this earth. Because I know, you've
Absolutely.
traveled, quite a few times with Janine, so now the big question for me is, you started in, again, this very rural area and farmed and, did things like that. So how have things changed over the 90 years since what you remember earliest to the technology you see today? Or what have been some of the surprises that you've seen with what's evolved over the last 90 years for you?
Well, for one thing, like the milkman and the baker man came to the house. Now you can get on your computer or your telephone and call the store and they'll deliver it. So that's
Yep,
huge.
that's a good point. Yep, yep. Mm-hmm.
being developed, and that has changed so many things. I've seen I used to just look at the man in the moon and know somebody was up, has been up there and walked on it, and I never thought that would happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it did. Uh, with other things,
Well, you've been through, like, because everybody said, where were you when JFK was shot, and where were you during 9/11? And, you brought up the war, the atomic,
yeah,
and obviously I don't have any reference points to those at all. And technology, I mean, the computer
yeah,
age happened, but I know that you're well, that you're curious enough that you learned how to use a computer and you actually wrote your story out in a book form.
yeah, I
And
did.
so I applaud you for that, because a lot of people, and I don't want to keep saying at your age, but at your age wouldn't bother learning that stuff, but you have. You're good with your iPhone, with a couple minor exceptions, and you learned the computer so that you could write out what you wanted people to know. So is there anything else that you see that was a surprise, that how it came to be, that you know like obviously the milkman and the bread man, we don't do that anymore, and there's been some other things. Is there anything else that has surprised you?
Well, the computer has gone from a room-sized machine type thing till a tiny little watch that you can see everything on,
Mhm.
and how
Mhm.
development of news. I mean, we used to listen to the radio station then, the Lux Radio Theater, and when we would get home from church on Sunday night, we could watch that, and that was fun. And but the ability to see what's going on in the rest of the world. I mean, growing up, we just had, just a little area that we were in, and occasionally you'd hear something on the radio that storms, but it didn't impact you like it does today. I never thought about hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that, the damage that they do. But now living in Florida, I mean, I can see that firsthand. But you see things from all over the world, the disasters that happen, and it makes it more personal, or you want to get involved and help people that way. That's good.
Right, because it's real time. It's not like you wait for the news the next night, world news
Yeah,
tonight, and then they tell you something, and you look at it and it's almost abstract because you really don't understand what you're seeing. But now that we can see it, like I say, in real time, and
yeah.
what's happening, and you can watch that. And I guess I have to ask, I think education has shifted and changed even in my lifetime. How have you seen that change from where you started to what you see currently?
Well, when I was growing up, I wanted to go to college, and I did. I did enroll in college, and then I decided to get married instead. And I have never regretted that choice because I liked being a stay-at-home mom, and wish I was until I think the kids were in kindergarten. Anne was in the first grade. Eugenie was in. No, she was 2.5 when we moved to Beatrice in Westland, where you live next door.
Hmm.
Um, I lost my train of thought here.
About the education, how it's changed,
Oh,
and
yeah. So now you think that everybody should have a college education, and it's good, but not everybody has college material. I think they should have more trade schools
hmm
and
hmm
to teach. I mean, we had in high school when we went to high school, they had mechanics and woodworking classes and homemaking classes, and they taught you how to write a checkbook and how to cook, and
hmm hmm
more or less keep house. And that was good, but I don't think they have that anymore. Maybe they do.
Yeah, I don't know about currently, because I know that at the high school that I went to, they did have it, and I did really well in metals and woodworking, and I failed the sewing class, and I didn't do well at cooking, so that should have been a real it should have been a real obvious thing for me. But yeah, I'm not real strong at those things. But I do remember that you are a very good cook. So so at
But I,
least
I don't think the kids that graduated from college at my age, had thousands of dollars worth of debts when they got out like they do now.
right. It's almost well, and this is just a personal aside, but I think colleges turned into a business, and that everybody was
Yes.
shoved to go down a rabbit hole that not everybody was. It wasn't necessary for everybody because you did have some jobs that over your time, and it didn't require college, but you were very smart, and so you were a hard worker. So again, college isn't for everybody, but it's also not necessary for everybody either.
No, I think my grandson said he learned more uh, working in the shop that he worked in than he did in college.
Well, yeah, and they really do tailor, and
Yeah.
for the education just so that they can maximize the money, and but that's a whole different topic. So, is there anything else you want to say in conclusion? Because this has been fascinating. Because I knew a tiny bit of your beginning story, and I watched the hardships with you because again, Janine and I are besties. So, is there anything else you want to add to that you think would round out your story?
I just want to thank you, Denise, for being such a lifelong and loyal friend to my daughter. It's mean a lot to her.
Oh yeah. Oh, I tell her all the time. I couldn't imagine life without her. She can't go anywhere for a while, and we've
I
we've
know
we've certainly done
I,
life together.
I've been blessed with lifelong friends, and that is a real blessing. And I'm a person that writes letters, which is a dying thing. People don't usually do that. They're text and
Hmm hmm
stuff. But
Well, because I also know that in your community in Florida, that you had said it already that you're an actress and that you get out there and you have a group of you and you perform and things like that. And I think that that's really a fun part of your personality that comes out when you get to expand
yes,
on that.
that's another way that God is goes after me because when I first moved down there, I didn't like it. I was too far away from family, and I just didn't like it at all. But
Hmm
now, after 40 years, I wouldn't can't think of living anywhere else. And
hmm hmm
living in that community has provided entertainment for me, a focus in my life that I can devote my energy and uh, the expertise that I don't have any, but um, it's just filled the void in my life.
Well, and there's security, there's safety in numbers. And once you get to know those people, then they do become lifelong friends. And
Yes,
and again, there's enough
it's
activities
a
there that.
smaller community. There's only about 500 homes in there,
Hmm
and probably 270 of those houses are actually involved in the clubhouse that we have.
hmm
And
hmm
and they're like family. And you can go away. I mean, I can go away like this and leave my house and know that my friend down the street, there's a hurricane coming. He's going to come up to my house and take down my shutters and do the things
hmm
that have to be done for a
hmm
storm. And I
hmm
don't even have to be there, and I don't even have to call him. He'll just do that, and that's
Right.
a blessing. That's a real
hmm Well, this has been fabulous fun because again, I know your story, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the Blind Zone because I think it's a story that bears other people to hear it. And I know tomorrow you have the big family reunion, which will be fun,
yeah.
about 50 people or so. And I unfortunately was not able to come up because I'm expecting my second grandson any minute now. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so sorry, Dolores, you ranked, but not that high because I have to wait for my grandbaby. So anyway, thanks again, and like I said, I really appreciate you coming on the Blind Zone, and I hope you enjoy your family reunion tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Denise. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, that's it. That wraps us up for today, and we'll see you next week on the Blind Zone.